Thank you for joining us on this Friday, February 28th. Live from the Beasley Media Complex in Boone, this is the Appalachian Weekly News. I'm Anna Muckenfuss.
And I'm Katie Garceran. Voters not affiliated with a party in Watauga County can still vote in the primaries. According to the Watauga County Board of Elections, the county has over 19,000 unaffiliated voters. People registered as unaffiliated can choose to vote Democratic, Republican, or Libertarian. Matthew Snyder is the director of the Watauga County Board of Elections. He says unaffiliated voters need to participate so they can help determine what candidates we see in the fall. Sample ballots can be found on the Watauga County website, and one of the 7 voting sites is in the Blue Ridge Ballroom in the Student Union. The last day for early voting in the primary is February 29th.
Speaking of elections, in anticipation of Super Tuesday, presidential candidates are descending upon North Carolina. Our correspondent John Park has the story of the current Democratic frontrunner visiting the Tar Heel State.
It was a sight to see here at Winston-Salem State University as Vermont Senator and presidential candidate Bernie Sanders held a rally just under a week before Super Tuesday, in which 122 delegates will be up for grabs here in North Carolina.
Crowds gathered outside the Gaines Center on Thursday morning in hopes to get a glimpse of the Democratic frontrunner Bernie Sanders. The senator made the historic trip to the HBCU campus before Super Tuesday next week. Amy Mepham, an attendee, said that she believes Sanders can win the contested state.
You know, I think he does. I think he's polling really well, and I think that he's really emerging as the front runner after really strong wins in Iowa, Nebraska, and Nevada.
Sanders is well known for his progressive stances that make up his platform. His supporters, like Art Morissette, believe that these are the most important issues this election cycle.
Well, I'm his age, so Medicare for all is really important, not just for people who have Social Security or Medicare. It should be for everyone.
Inside the rally, smiles and dancing were abundant as a DJ and several speakers kept the 1,400 capacity crowd excited about Bernie Sanders before his appearance. After strolling out onto the stage, Sanders made the case as to why he's the candidate to defeat Donald Trump.
The reason we're going to win here in North Carolina is because we have the strongest grassroots movement of any campaign in modern American history.
During his standard stump speech concerning the legalization of marijuana, Medicare for all, and student loan debt cancellation, Sanders notably drew cheers on his stance on the mass incarceration of young black men in the U.S.
Today, we have more people in jail, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American, than any other country on earth.
After the rally, Bernie and supporters made a short march from the Gaines Center to the early voting site on WSSU's campus to encourage attendees to vote. One of the early voters was Hollis Giles, a student at the university. He remarked on how important it is for students to actually go out and vote.
You know, I feel as though by us coming out and voting, we're showing everybody that your vote does matter, even though you're young. And I just think it's a good idea to come out and vote, support your politicians, and work towards making a change in some way, shape, or form. Sanders is currently neck and neck with former Vice President Joe Biden in North Carolina, as reported by a Meredith College poll. The poll has Bernie Sanders at 20% over Biden at 18%. In Winston-Salem for the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm John Park.
App State faculty will not receive a raise until the state legislature adopts a budget. Governor Roy Cooper and the North Carolina General Assembly cannot agree on 14 bills. That is stalling the state budget. Michael Barrent is the chair of the Faculty Senate. He says that the organization is concerned with the lack of a budget and the stagnation of faculty salaries. North Carolina's state law says that if a budget is not passed, the prior year's level of spending can be maintained.
Appalcart riders are facing overcrowding on their daily commute. Board members met to review solutions last Tuesday in the Student Union. According to their presentation, the population of Boone is expected to increase 18% by 2025. Craig Hughes is the director of Appalcart.
We recently had hired a consultant to do a comprehensive service review and basically look at all our routes, see if they're efficient, see if they could be more efficient. And that was precipitated by, we just had so much demand for our services that people were getting left behind. Buses were overcrowded. So we went back and said, okay, we want to do this comprehensive service review, look at our existing routes, how can we improve them, how can we get more capacity with what we've got.
He says that in the next 5 years, Appalcart plans to add 10 buses. Another possible solution is to construct a transit center outside Peacock Hall. The goal is to help bus drivers who have problems turning around and help with traffic. The total cost of these plans amounts to over $25 million. Quint David is the chair of the board at Appalcart. He says Appalcart receives its funding from the state, Boone, and Watauga County. So because of this, decisions on any changes depend on funding from outside sources.
Students and residents are working together to create a people's vision for energy in Boone. The Energy Justice North Carolina Coalition and 13 other organizations hosted the High Country Energy Justice Summit on February 22nd. The coalition's goal is to end the Duke Energy monopoly. Kara Flowers is a concerned citizen.
What they were saying in there is exactly right. We're in the middle of a crisis and we need to be acting a little bit more like we're in a crisis, especially at a local level. I think that what was so great about the summit was that they were giving us, it was so informative, but they were also giving us great practical local solutions that people can do here in the community to make sure that the High Country becomes a more progressive, climate conscious community.
In the High Country, a large portion of power comes from Duke Energy's natural gas. On campus, energy is provided by New River Light and Power. That company purchases power from Duke Energy. App State's mission says that sustainability is a tradition, but only 0.151% of its energy comes from renewable sources, and that's according to the Strategic Energy Water Management Plan from 2019.
Patrick Richardson is App State's energy analyst. He says that the university is 40% more efficient at using energy compared to 2003.
Correspondent Xanayra Marin-Lopez has the story of another way App State seeks sustainability.
Climate Action Collaborative is requesting a response from Chancellor Sherry Everts to a petition for a commitment to climate action at App State. Whether she'll answer is unlikely.
The grassroots movement of students, community members, faculty, and staff are referencing both the SGA and Faculty Senate Climate Neutrality Bill, as well as the Office of Sustainability's most recent Climate Action Plan in their petition.
SGA's bill cites to achieve climate neutrality by 2025, and Faculty Senate supports the year 2035. The problem is the UNC system policy for climate neutrality refers to 2050. A decision supported by the Chancellor to uphold climate neutrality to an earlier year would put her in hot water.
Caitlin Doss of Climate Action Collaborative says the organization understands this, but are still seeking change.
She might face some type of political effect from the Board of Governors, which could threaten her position as Chancellor, in which case we don't want Chancellor Everts to be fired, because the likelihood that she would be replaced by someone who cares more about sustainability and things like that is pretty slim, especially if the Board of Governors has anything to do with it.
Since nothing has occurred from the bills, the group feels that enforcement of a climate plan needs to be mandatory. Eric Halverson helped in writing the petition and is an App State graduate. Him and the collaborative feel that the Chancellor has the position to make change.
In the past, we've had climate action plans that have largely went untouched because they weren't, the Office of Sustainability or whoever is supposed to enforce the plan has not been able to have the power or the authority to make sure it gets done.
The group feels stuck not knowing how far to escalate the movement going further while awaiting a response. A relationship between administration and Climate Action Collaborative is what they're striving for. Once there is a response, I'll be back with an update. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Sadie Marin-Lopez.
The App State Police Department has been ranked number 18 in the country by the National Campus Safety Summit. Andy Stevenson is the police chief and director of public health and safety. He says he wants the department to climb even higher. Stevenson says the department is working on ways to increase its involvement in the community and on campus.
Upperclassmen wishing to live on campus next year could be out of luck. University Housing's website says completing the application does not guarantee students a spot on the campus. Imagine Graham is a sophomore. She lives in Level Hall and successfully secured housing on campus her junior year. She says that because of policy changes, she won't be able to choose her roommate. She says this creates problems for people who want to live on campus with someone they feel comfortable with. New dorm construction will increase the number of beds on campus to more than 6,000. With 4,000 incoming freshmen, That leaves 2,000 spots for other students. Because of this, many students are turning to off-campus housing. Off-campus Student Services is a part of the Division of Student Affairs. They offer off-campus housing resources for all students seeking help.
Last week, we reported on recent power outages on App State's campus.
Our correspondent Hadasa Rivera has more information.
For New River Light and power employees, the work never stops. February 23rd marked the most recent power outage on App State's campus. Engineering supervisor Matthew McDatt is in charge of the line workers that go out into the community and complete the emergency response work for outages. New River Light works closely with App State Police and providers such as AT&T and Spectrum. McDatt says the reason for outages always vary.
There's probably about 25% of all of our outages involve wildlife of some sort, and we can't always prevent them from getting into something. You know, they only need a little opening to get into something, and they're looking for food or warmth. Another 25% we find is actually due to an issue with a tree or tree limbs. That's why we have a program where we have to trim back the trees, because when we either get some wind or the tree just branch fails or something, a lot of times they'll hit an overhead line and cause a problem.
The other 50% of outages are due to equipment failure, vehicle accidents, or weather-related incidents. Outage time on campus is usually about 55 minutes. To increase efficiency, New River Light has an automated metering system that notifies employees via text or email when there is a problem. McDatt says there are things students can do to help make the process of restoring power more efficient.
Until power is restored for a minute or two, it would probably be best to disconnect any sensitive pieces of equipment. But other than that is just basically letting our guys, get to where they need to go, watch for the trucks, and just keep a safe distance.
For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Hadasa Rivera Marin.
American students are learning what it is like to be an international student through a panel of cultural ambassadors. The Appalachian Popular Programming Society hosted a Taste of Dialogue on February 18th. At the event, there was a question and answer panel of 7 students, all from different countries. Asaf Zemnal is a student from Israel. He says he wanted to represent his country because of misconceptions about where he is from. Madison Harris is a member of the Cultural Awareness and Student Engagement Council for APPS.
I think it shows that international students actually go here and that they're actually a part of our community. And I think it's nice that APPS creates this event just to kind of create a discussion that we normally wouldn't have.
The Lutheran Church has a long history at App State. The club, Lutheran Students of Appalachian, hopes to continue its growth. Matthew Chapman is the Vice President of Communication for the LSA. He says that the group brings a family aspect that is hard to find elsewhere. Members of the group meet on Wednesdays to cook meals, play games, and bake cookies. Faith Goyne is the president of the LSA. She says the ministry aims to share their experience with everyone, regardless of sexuality, race, or age. Goyne says the ministry hopes to continue building relationships with the Women's Center and the LGBTQ+ Center in the future.
Our correspondent Saniye Wilson has a few ways that Boone residents can get involved with the growing development of our town.
SPA, the Student Planners Association, is an inclusive student organization representing the field of community and regional planning. Planning is a dynamic profession that works to improve the welfare of people in their communities by creating equitable and attractive sites for present and future generations.
A lot of the decisions that planners make have to do with where things are being located or where things are being placed. A lot of times it's businesses, or it can be parks, or it can be trails, just anything that has to do with moving around the town and living in the town overall.
I got into planning because I was really obsessed with playing SimCity. And I love city building games, and somebody pointed out to me that there is a profession that involves planning where you build things in cities.
Walk into Rankin any day and you'll find countless planning students on GIS, Geographic Information Systems, a data analytics tool that allows you to layer thousands of data to compile and make a solution.
Where you needed to figure out which road should be flooded, you could figure out where the rivers are, where the elevations are around that river, and where the roads are, and figure out which road should be passable during a flood.
Having to work through so much data means the more hands, the better.
One way that community members can get involved with the planning process in Boone is by serving on an advisory board or committee, such as the Planning Commission.
Such boards and committees meet at the council chambers on Blowing Rock Road.
I'm here in the Boone Council Chambers, where the Planning Commission was supposed to meet this past Monday. The meeting was canceled because of a lack of agenda items, but the next meeting is March 23rd and is open to the public. Like many meetings in this room, residents are welcome to weigh in on their perspectives. Students are even encouraged to get involved, with shorter term limits offered for volunteer positions.
The main goal of planning is to collaborate and to get a lot of different people's opinions on a lot of different things.
Hopefully, I'll see you here on March 23rd.
For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Saniye Wilson.
Now it's time to check in on sports with Jayson James. Hey Jason, what can we expect from athletics this week?
Hey Anna, another busy week of athletics is in the books here at App. The softball team had a very busy weekend playing 3 games in 2 days. The women lost to North Carolina A&T on Saturday 7-5. Sydney Holland suffered her first loss of the season and she now sits at 5-1. App struck first in this game, scoring 1 run in the first inning and 4 in the second. The team was out-hit 11-7 but gave up no errors. Game 2 resulted in the same thing for the Lady Mountaineers, falling to Charleston Southern in heartbreaking fashion 1-0. The only run of the game was an unearned run scored on an error. Kenzie Longenecker took the loss in the circle for this game, giving up 2 hits and striking out 3. She now sits at 2-4 overall on the season. In Game 3, the Mountaineers finally found the win column, defeating Ohio by a score of 9-1. The Mountaineers run-ruled the Bobcats in 6 innings and accumulated 13 hits at the plate. They now return to Boone to prepare for the final tournament of the season in Greensboro from February 28th to March 1st. The baseball team left Kentucky this past weekend empty-handed, getting swept by the Wildcats in a 3-game series. In Game 1, the Mountaineers fell 7-3. They would also fall in Game 2 by a score of 21-4. Game 3 was a little more competitive. After 15 innings, App would fall after a walk-off with 2 outs in the bottom of the 15th. That was the longest game the Mountaineers have been in since 2000 when they played in the Southern Conference Tournament against East Tennessee State. On Wednesday, the Mountaineers found the win column again, defeating the 24th best team in the nation, Wake Forest, 11-9. Andrew Greco's go-ahead 2-run home run in the top of the 9th propelled the Mountaineers to the win in Winston-Salem. After the game, head coach Kermit Smith had nothing but praise for his team. They're back in action on Saturday as they take on UNC Greensboro at 2 o'clock in Greensboro. Women's basketball fell to Georgia Southern over the weekend 78-70 in Statesboro. Pre Stanley led the Mountaineers with 23 points, while Bailey Plummer collected 9 boards. The Lady Mountaineers fell at home on Thursday to Louisiana Lafayette 57-51. Pre Stanley led all scorers with 12 points on the night. The Mountaineers now currently sit at 9-18 overall and 6-10 in conference. They'll round out the season on Saturday as they host Louisiana Monroe at 2 o'clock. The men's basketball team defeated Troy on Saturday 68-59 on Alumni Day. Justin Forrest filled up the stat sheet. He collected 24 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. O'Shawn Williams reached double figures for the 7th consecutive time with 15 points. Isaac Johnson collected his 6th double-double of the season with 13 points and 10 rebounds. The Mountaineers now sit at 16-13 overall and 10-8 in the conference. Their next game is February 29th against the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina at 4:30. The women's tennis team defeated the College of Charleston over the weekend 4-3, claiming their 5th straight win. Selena Ate and Kate Earnhardt improved to 3-1 on the season in their doubles match, while Sasha Piserva won another singles match, making her 7-0 on the season. The Mountaineers now head to Johnson City over the weekend to face UNC Charlotte on Saturday before squaring off against ETSU on Sunday. The wrestling team closed out the regular season with a 43-0 shutout against Virginia Military Institute on Senior Day. Thomas Flitch, Jonathan Milner, and Matt Zovostowski had key victories on the day. The wrestling team will be back in action on March 8th as they host the SoCon Championships in the Home Center. The men's track team wrapped up its season last weekend in Birmingham at the Sunbelt Championships. Congrats to Deshaun Ballard after breaking the school record in the 200-meter dash. App finished 6 out of 8 teams in the championships, with Texas State taking home the gold. The women's track team also wrapped up its season this past weekend at the conference championships. Jessica Dixon led the Lady Mountaineers, claiming the 400-meter dash victory. The Lady Mountaineers finished 6 out of 12 teams in the tournament. Congrats to both men and women's track teams on a great season. That's all for sports this week. Anna, Katie, let's hope they can keep up their success next week. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Jason. I hope going into March, our basketball teams can get some wins.
Hopefully. And now it's time for your High Country High Note. Departments across the state allow for students to express their creativity.
Our correspondent Richard Barker has the story of students in the theater department doing just this.
At the Valborg Theater this Friday through Sunday, the Department of Theater and Dance is putting on Rachel Bond's 5 Mile Lake. Students in all disciplines, from acting to design to tech, have been hard at work for months. The story deals with several young adults in their early 20s finding their way through life. Directed by Dr. Ray Miller, he discusses why this play is so important right now.
I've been teaching college now for over 30 years, and so these are conversations I've had with young people who've recently graduated over 30-year time. I also have a daughter who's 24, who's now living in New York on her own. And that period between graduation from either high school or college up to maybe your early 30s is so critical. It's when you actually make those decisions that are going to last a lifetime. Good and bad. And so I'm really interested in that very vulnerable period, not just because of what that means to us psychologically, but it has implications for what our society is going to be like.
With a production of only 5 actors, each of them play a major part in the story of the play. Senior Parker Stone talks about what it's like to work in such a tight-knit cast.
With a small cast is really great. It's really a team. Like, we collaborate. I think that's one of the biggest things for our director to our designers to the group as a whole. We really bounce ideas off of each other. When we were doing a lot of the table work for the show, we came up with a lot of answers to what was going on and off stage as a team, and it's kind of been that throughout. We work for each other attitude.
But it's not just actors that put on a show. There's a whole army of people backstage working together to help the show run smoothly. Senior Andre Braza talks about what it's like to be on the running crew and the other jobs in a show.
So what we do is we change the set, like the scenery between scenes, and that's what I do. Like, there are other people who are like on comms that listen to the stage manager and give us cues to when to go on stage and take stuff off and stuff like that. So yeah, there's and then there's the props people, and then there's also costume people.
Tickets can be bought directly at the Schaefer Center or visiting the website theschaefercenter.org. For the Appalachian Weekly News, I'm Richard Barker.
That's our report this week. I'm Anna Muckenfuss.
And I'm Katie Garceran.
For all of us at the Appalachian Weekly News, thank you for watching.
Enjoy the snow, stay safe, and we'll see you next week.